Why was Hawaii such a strong democratic state? As it still is now, it's a little bit less so, but uh, at that time, what I saw was a party that welcomed free thinkers. It was truly a big tent party, even in their own words. It was a party that stood up for civil liberties. It's a party that stood up for freedom of speech and was willing to fight for it.
That is true.
It was a party that in Hawaii's history fought for working people. It fought for average everyday Americans against the corporate industrial complex, which in Hawaii was the big four plantation owners back in the day. And so it was because of those reasons, and looking at leaders like JFK.
So can I ask you,
Yeah.
for people who aren't familiar with the history of the state, which is actually very interesting,
It is.
completely different from the history of any other of the 49 states.
Yes.
It was almost like a feudal system.
Yeah.
In Hawaii. Is that fair?
It was. It was. And going back, and this is where there was a big shift. And people in the political world ask all the time is like, why did Hawaii become such a strong Democrat state? It was because there were four major landowners that came in and essentially took the land from the local people through the Queen in jail and decided, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start growing sugarcane. We're going to start growing pineapples. And they essentially installed themselves as the government of what was then the territory of Hawaii. And local people really didn't have a whole lot of say in it. But through that process, there were immigrants coming from Japan and from the Philippines, from Portugal, from places all over the world, seeking opportunity, getting work visas and work contracts to go and work in the fields. And these massive plantation owners essentially treated them like crap. Subhuman living conditions, abysmal pay, and essentially what we would call complete abuse in this day and age. But they got away with it because the people had no voice. When one group started to rise up and say, hey, we got to stick together and demand better living conditions and better pay. Let's say it was the Filipinos who did it. And they said, okay, well, fine. We're just going to have the Japanese workers come in and take over your fields and leave you with nothing. And so pitting one group against the other. So in Hawaii, it was the ILWU union primarily that came in and actually started to organize workers. And there was a couple of Democrat political leaders who had failed at the polls previously because they didn't have the votes. They came in and said, hey, look, we're going to fight for you. And they did. And that was when Hawaii shifted from Republican to Democrat control, because the Democrat Party at that time was the party of the people.